Okay, let's have a chat about reflux. Reflux is one of the most common side effects that I see in my clients after a sleeve. And while not everybody experiences reflux after a sleeve, it is possible that you'll need to ask for treatment for it. So I really wanted to kind of explain firstly what reflux is. Reflux, or otherwise known as heartburn, is a burning sensation that's felt in the esophagus. So usually due to a weakening of the sphincter between the esophagus and the stomach, which means that it isn't closing properly, and some of the acid from your stomach is getting back up into that esophagus and irritating the lining of the esophagus. So it's more likely that you're going to experience reflux after eating or when you're lying down. So people often experience reflux at night or if they've overeaten at a meal. So the other thing to think about is there is a disease called gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD, and that is frequent and chronic reflux. So it's usually when reflux is experienced more than twice a week, and if left untreated, that can lead to some serious health issues. So just be sure that you actually go in and you ask your GP or you ask your surgeon for some help or some advice regarding your reflux if you're experiencing it frequently. So there are lots of causes of reflux, and on top of it just being a weakening of that sphincter at the top of your stomach, it could be caused by a mechanical issue like a hiatus hernia. Sometimes they are repaired at the same time as the sleeve is done, or you might have been encouraged to have a bypass rather than a sleeve. Or you might have not even had a hiatus hernia, but you might have a stricture that can develop after a sleeve, which is due to the scar tissue from the surgery, kind of causing a tightening in that stomach, which leads to some mechanical issues. Reflux can also be more common in the early phase post-op because of the swelling. So it can be caused by the swelling which is left from the actual surgery, and that sort of reflux often subsides as you heal and that swelling goes down. So usually that reflux has started to dissipate by about 6 to 8 weeks after the surgery. It could also be caused by the additional pressure that's placed on your stomach and esophagus due to excess weight. And if this is the case for you, it's likely you would have had reflux before your surgery as well. The last one is probably the most common reason for reflux after a sleeve, and that is eating too fast, too much, or taking mouthfuls that are too big, or eating and drinking at the same time. So these sorts of habits after the surgery mean that food has difficulty making it into the stomach, and it ends up sitting in the esophagus for longer, which means that esophageal sphincter at the top has trouble closing as food is in the way. So common treatments for reflux after a sleeve include medication. So of course you're going to go and talk to your surgeon. They may wish to investigate the cause of your reflux with maybe a barium swallow or an endoscopy, as well as trial a whole range of treatments for you. So medications, most surgeons will prescribe prophylactic medications initially after the surgery. For example, you might get told to take meds for the first month and then try and come off it. If you get some reflux, to go back on the medication, or if you don't, just stay off it. If you get reflux at night and you're taking that medication, it might be worth taking that medication in the afternoon or the evening rather than the morning, because it allows it to act longer over the evening. The second thing is to work on your eating habits. So to minimize the impact of eating habits on your reflux, it's really important to focus on how you are eating. If you find you get reflux after meals, no matter what you eat, then this tip is for you. How you eat is really, really important. So make sure you slow down. You're taking 20 to 30 minutes to eat your meal. You're making sure your mouthfuls are small, so half to 1 teaspoon, and you're taking breaks in between each mouthful. Also watch your portion sizes. So stick to approximately 1 cup and stop before you feel, just when you feel satisfied, but before you feel full. So look for what I call a sigh moment, which is when you're eating your meal, you pause, you take a deep breath in and you breathe out, that's when you should stop eating. That's your stomach trying to tell your brain that it's had enough. Also, don't eat and drink at the same time, so leave a little gap before you eat and then about 15 to 30 minutes after you've eaten before you have another drink. Try not to eat too late at night. Give your tummy, if you can, at least 2 hours to digest before you lie down to sleep. And finally, keep an eye out for trigger foods. If there is anything that you've kind of figured out that tends to set off your reflux, give it a break for a little while and then try it again. So it might be a texture thing, it might be the food itself, and common foods tend to be foods that are really quite heavy or rich or spicy. But this is so different for everybody. So you've got to kind of do a little bit of trial and error to figure out what works for you. Other things that can help with reflux is to sleep propped up with an extra couple of pillows at night time so that you're not lying flat, and also work on ways to manage your stress. So often when we're stressed, reflux is worse, and we tend to find it hard to pay attention when we're actually eating our meals. So in the worst case scenario, your surgeon might recommend a revisional surgery if that reflux after a year or two is just unbearable. However, it is definitely not the first step, and there are lots of things that you can try. So I hope you found this useful, and please get in touch if you have any further questions about reflux.